One of the greatest pieces of advice I can give to so many people is don't have children. I mean, one of the most beautiful things my parents ever did for me and the way they raised me and the way they raised my brother and my sister is understanding the difference in growing up here in somewhere in Ireland versus growing up in Nigeria where they grew up. Growing up in Nigeria, respect for your elders is sacrosanct. You can't even call someone older than you, 5, 10 years older than you, by their first name. It's insane. It's crazy out there. But here, that's not really the case. You know, you can't call them older by their first name, whatever the case may be. People don't really care as much over here, and so they really understood that in terms of the way they raised her, especially with the way they raised my little sister. With my little sister, they understood that things that she may do that they may have deemed disrespectful if they had done it when they were kids, they understand that she's not trying to be disrespectful. She's just grown up in a completely different country, completely different environment, completely different place, surroundings. It's worlds apart, and they have to understand that they have to take that into account when they're raising her with how they raised me and my brother. And so I think for me, one of the things people always talk about when they want to have children is they want to carry on a legacy, whatever that means. And I think ultimately, if you want to have kids because simply you want to carry on a legacy, I think you maybe should maybe have another think about whether you should have children or not. Simply because I think people who look at children as a means to carry on a legacy, they're going to look at their children as a means to an end. They're going to look at their children as simply mini versions of them. And so they should completely model them and be exact in everything they do, say, think, you know, the same way that they were when they were that age. And I think that's wrong. I think ultimately we have to understand that. For me, for example, when I have a son, that is not going to be, ultimately, yes, it is my son. That's going to be Kenneth's son. But ultimately, that's going to be their own person with their own ideals and perspectives and viewpoints on life. I have to be comfortable with the fact that this future daughter or son of mine can be completely different from me in every single way, shape, and form. I have to come to terms with that fact, you know, and it's my job to help them navigate that and figure out how they fit into the world that they've been born into. Not how can they become the next version of me so people can say, oh, that's your little twin. No. How can this person fit into the world with their character and their viewpoints and how they see the world? That is so important. For me, I'm not gonna have children simply because I want to carry on a legacy. I'm gonna have children because I understand I have love to give, and I understand how I have the tools and the skills and the experience to best equip them as much as I can for life. That's the reason I'll have children, not because I want to carry on some legacy. What legacy? What legacy? What legacy are we all talking about when people say we want to have kids? Like, what legacy? What have you done? What have you changed in the world? Forget the world. What have you changed in other people's lives? How much of your day-to-day is spent on about you and what you can do and about yourself and your own insecurities and thinking that other people are thinking about you all the time? Nothing. So ultimately, there is no legacy for majority of us to carry on, for us to all be saying, yeah, that's why we want to have children. It's pathetic. And so for me, when that time comes, when I do have children, whether that's a son or a daughter, I'm going to lead and try and build upon what my parents did and understanding that they're going to grow up in a completely different world from me, a completely different environment from me, especially nowadays with the pace at which the world changes. They're going to grow up in a world so different from mine, and I have to be willing to accept that. And I have to lead with that mentality and how I try and navigate and help best equip them for the world and understand this person can and probably will become a very different person from me and how they view things, and that's okay because I didn't give birth to them to soothe my own soul and so I can have a mini me that I can mold and shape and craft exactly as how I want to, as if there's some science project. No, they've been brought into this world because I have love to give, I have experience, I have wisdom, I have understanding, and I have knowledge, and I want to give and equip them with so they can go even further than I have in whatever path they want to. Not the path that I've set out for them, not the path that I've whipped up in my head and that I've idealized and reinforced in my mind since the day I decided, yes, I'm ready to have a kid. No, it's what they want to do. And so I think that's a perspective that a lot of us need to take on. And I think you need to really sit down and ask yourself if the reason you want to have children is to carry on a legacy. Maybe you should have a second guess about maybe whether you're actually ready to have kids or not. But yeah, rant over.